Welcome back to Paranormally Correct. I'm your host, Sarah, as always, and today we're talking about 5 things ghost hunters should do. As you all probably know, I was a ghost hunter for a number of years. I went on a lot of investigations, both residential and commercial. I investigated with a number of teams, quite a few different ones actually, and I was involved with most of those teams as a full-time member, and sometimes I just, would go for shiggles. And along the way, I learned a lot of things about the paranormal and about how to ghost hunt in general. And I know the big fad of ghost hunting teams popping up everywhere, it's not in its heyday anymore, but there still are quite a few newcomers to the paranormal community. And so if you are new, maybe this will help you get started in your ghost hunting endeavors. Before we get started, please take a moment to click the like button or the dislike if you really want to, and also click the subscribe button and stick around for more spooky content. The first thing on my list of 5 things ghost hunters should do is share evidence with other investigators. Have you ever wondered what becomes of the evidence collected by ghost hunters once the investigation's over and once they do what some people like to call the reveal to the homeowner, to the client? Usually the answer to that is that data is hoarded onto an external hard drive or a disk or some other form of data backup. And it never sees the light of day again until it magically disappears or accidentally gets deleted or the storage space crashes. Any of those scenarios can happen. The best thing to do with it is to try to share it with as many other paranormal enthusiasts, specifically and other investigators. And the reason I think people should do this is because we as individuals don't know everything all by ourselves. But you would be surprised that the more you meet other enthusiasts and investigators and the more you talk to them, you realize there's a lot you can learn from these people. If you've collected good evidence, you should definitely put it out there for your colleagues to take a look at or listen, if it's audio, and see what they think about it, because they may be able to tell you something about it that you normally wouldn't have known otherwise. Number 4 on the list is investigate with other teams. So going back to something I said at the beginning of the video, I personally investigated with a lot of other teams and just a lot of other paranormal people in general. And I found that for the most part, we all kind of did it the same way. We all had a little bit of a protocol. Ghost hunters are generally pretty good about that, about having a standard that we all follow. But there were a few times where I investigated with someone who had a completely fresh and unique look, or rather perspective on how to investigate or different techniques for investigating. Some of them had been investigating for a lot longer than I had, especially when I was new, at ghost hunting. Not only will you learn new techniques from them, but it'll kind of inspire your mind to come up with even newer techniques, you know what I mean? So I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is don't confine yourself to the same group of people all the time. Number 3 on my list of things ghost hunters should do is remain in contact with the homeowner. Now, under the umbrella of this is also, and I want to talk about this too, but you should also make your best effort to divulge as much evidence as possible to them, even if it's maybe a piece of evidence that you're not 100% sure about. Make sure that you tell them everything after the investigation and you don't withhold any details or, anything from them. This may seem like a no-brainer, but you would probably be surprised at how many times I personally have seen ghost hunting teams kind of skip the end part. Naturally, it makes the client angry because most clients will agree to allow you to investigate their property, whether it's commercial or residential, for the payoff at the end to know if it's haunted. That's pretty much most people's goal, is to find out if their location is haunted. So when the ghost hunters don't ever come back with any information at all, they tend to get a little bit angry. And I think it's really unfair, of course, but it also makes you look really unprofessional. And it looks bad on everybody. And that's something that you also have to consider too, is that the actions that you take on an investigation and when working with a client reflects on everybody. Number 2 on the list, keep a field journal. Keeping a field journal is tremendously helpful for so many reasons. I could probably make an entire video about that just by itself. But I'll tell you just from personal experience, one of the reasons that I'm very, very happy I kept a field journal for most of the time. I did eventually get a little lackadaisical with it, and I kind of quit at some point, and I regret that tremendously. But for the most part, I can go back and refer to my field journals now, a decade later, actually more than a decade for a lot of investigations. And I can immediately, use the journals to kind of pull up memories of things that maybe I would have forgotten over time. If you ever plan to talk about your investigations or, make videos, or maybe you want to write a book at some point, or maybe you just like having your memories handy, don't trust your mind to keep all of that info because you will forget over time. If you're someone who's really dedicated to the paranormal and you plan to stay in it for a long time, it's really good to have these cases documented so that, 10 or 12 years down the road, if you encounter an extremely strange paranormal case, you can probably go back to your field journal notes and compare and contrast activity, or just something to that effect, and you would be surprised how much it will help you in forming theories, just theorizing on what type of activity it is. I know sometimes it's a little painstaking, especially if you've investigated all night. You're probably really tired and you probably don't want to take the time to do it, but you really should just, dedicate some time to writing in your field journal and try to make it as detailed as possible. Put everything in, everything that happened on the investigation. And coming in at number 1 on my list of things ghost hunters should absolutely do, be a good confidant. So there are times where you'll meet people who want you to tell their story. Then there are times where you'll have clients who say, please don't tell anybody. I don't want this to get out. Maybe they're like a doctor or lawyer and they think that the public will see them as Looney Tunes if it gets out that they believe in ghosts and they think their house is haunted and they had ghost hunters come over. For most of us here on Paranormally Correct, it's really cool to talk about ghosts and share our experiences and, ghost hunt and all those things, but not everybody sees the paranormal that way. There's a big stigma around the paranormal and again, this is a topic I can make a whole other video on, so I won't go too much into it here. But there's really a big stigma, and not everybody is eager to share their experience with anything unknown, and especially not their experience with a ghost hunting team. So sometimes people will say, yeah, it's perfectly fine if you publicize this. You can tell my name or, the business's name, or a lot of times it actually helps businesses if you're investigating a commercial place. Some of them want the reputation of being haunted. So it really just kind of depends on the client, but listen to them and abide by what they ask of you. If they ask you not to share details, don't share details. If they tell you that it's okay to share details without revealing identities, of course, you can always do that as well. Okay, guys, that is my top 5 things that ghost hunters should do. Stay tuned for the top 5 things ghost hunters shouldn't do. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and leave me a comment if you have any other do's or even don'ts, that you think maybe you're an investigator and you have something to add to this list. I would love to read your comments, so leave me one. And until next time, guys, don't get eaten by Dogman and don't get abducted by aliens, and I'll see you guys later.